Well, hello there. In this video, we are going to take a look at a new type of documenting standard for documenting JavaScript scripts and frameworks, libraries, and so forth. In particular, we're going to look at the compiled help version of the MSLS.JS script, which is the core script for the Microsoft LightSwitch HTML client. In any in any JavaScript application, based application, you will find that the JavaScript usually starts at the top of the JavaScript and goes to the bottom of the script. And it's very difficult to understand what the intention of the developer or developers associated to the script and exactly how it functions at the end of the day. So for example, if we look at the MSLS application, JavaScript, basically you can see that it starts at the top and it goes down and down and down and down and down and down. So there's quite a bit of code in here, so it makes it very difficult to understand exactly what it's doing. So what we've done is we've developed a what's called an abstract syntax tree parser, AST for short, and what that does is it takes in as its input any type of JavaScript framework, library, or script in general, and then parses that down into its fundamental elements such as function scopes, functions, variables, members, and so forth. In doing so, then we are able to build out a better story associated to the overall script and what it's doing in its function. So here we see the JavaScript compiled help file that's generated by our output. And essentially what this provides is a highly indexed searchable product across the entire script. We break it down into two sort of global areas. One, global variables that are defined within the overall scope of the application. So the global variables are defined here, and the function scopes. And the function scopes start at a global function scope level, outer level, and then have inner function scopes associated to them. And each function scope can have one or more functions and or function scopes, as well as associated variables, and so on. So we'll first take a look at our global variables, see what that looks like. So as you can see here, most people who are familiar with JavaScript would be familiar with the short-term name for jQuery, which is $. And as you can see here in the script, the way it's set up is $ is equal to jQuery. If we look at jQuery, we can see that jQuery is actually coming from the jQuery object, which is actually assigned to your current browser application based on the inclusion of the JavaScript itself, the jQuery JavaScript. You'll notice here that with the variables, there is basically potentially an assignment that happens in this area here, and then there is a one or more references potentially associated to that particular variable. In the MSLS script, there is a couple of dynamic types. In fact, there is a property approach where Microsoft exposes properties, classes with details, and enums. If we look at expose, for example, when we look at this particular variable here, you'll notice that it is namespaced MSLS._run. And that basically is the point of entry for your default.html application. And how does that come to be? It comes to be through this MSLS_expose method, in which, if we look at it, passes a name and an object. And if we go back, we can see that the name in this case is _run. And so then in our documentation, what we've done is we've laid out all of the properties that Microsoft is exposing through the MSLS script as exposed properties, as you see here. So we'll get a little bit more into this run in a little bit. Let's take a look at some of the other dynamic types that are created. Classes, as an example, are another form of dynamic creation. Microsoft relies heavily on Win.js to develop its, derive and define its classes dynamically. So here's a function called MSLS_define class. If we click on that, we can see that within here we have the define class function itself. And as you can see, it's passed a parent, a class name, a constructor, and a base class, instance members, and static members. Just go back for a second. We'll take a look at the variables that are being passed in. So the parameters here we have is MSLS, which is this global variable for the application, which is basically the top root application point for the script itself and for any HTML client. Then we have the name of the class that's going to be defined, followed by the constructor. In this case here, this is the constructor auto_dispose_change_listener. If we click on that, we can actually see the code in here and what it's doing. So when in this case, an auto_dispose_change_listener is newed up or created anywhere within the code, it will actually call through this function here, passing in the source, the property name, and the listener, and assign it to these internal variables associated to the application itself. And you'll notice here that we're passing in null. So for that fourth parameter, that's the parent. So JavaScript doesn't have built-in inheritance, but using the Win.js define capabilities, Microsoft is able to take the prototype of the parent and extend it to the child, and therefore develop a form of inheritance. So you'll see that in the derive class. And then finally, you'll see the instance members. In this case here, there's for this particular class, there's only one. It's the onDispose. And if you click on there, you can see this is what happens in the onDisposed member. So this function here is assigned to this variable onDisposed. So when this class is created, there would be the option of going msls.auto_dispose_change_listener._dispose to actually execute this particular function, which is good. If we go back to this, one of the things that I wanted to point out about this documentation is that the inclusion of third-party API in documentation. So if we look here, when I clicked on the defined Win.js class defined function, it took me to the actual API documentation for that. And as you can see here, this is a really good form of documentation. It shows you exactly how the particular class is being created, which is pretty interesting. So I'll leave that for you to navigate around and look at. Notice here there's the derive, and the derive is basically passed in a base class. So that's that parent class, the one that currently was null in our example. We go back up the tree here, this one here. Okay, so as you can see, the documentation provides a very slick way of navigating through the JavaScript, any JavaScript for that matter, but in this case the Microsoft LightSwitch Core JavaScript for their HTML product. And wherever there is related references to the usage of the functions and or classes, you'll see that you can actually get and drill down into those various related functions and see where they're being used and so forth. So another good example of how to actually navigate this or use this for your purpose of learning about the script or extending the script for your own purposes. One of the things I would like to point out as we look at the function scopes themselves, the function scopes have these very wild long names, but basically what that represents is all of the inner functions that are defined within that function scope. So it makes it easier if you're, once you get familiar with the script, you'll be able to say, okay, where's timer callback, and you'll notice that it's right here, and you'll be able to do it. So that's kind of one way to do it. The other way to do it is to use the highly indexed search. So I can look for timer callback, and I can see everywhere in the application where it's used very quickly, and I can get back to where I was very quickly. The nice thing about the compiled help also is that as you navigate on the right hand side, you'll notice that the left hand side is content tree is following in concert with wherever you are navigating. The other thing I'd like to point out is that when we define the function scope, this is just the area of the function scope associated to this block of the application. And you'll notice here that if you were to look at this in its purest form in JavaScript, you would see the definition of timer callback are these inline functions defined directly within the script itself. So what we've done is we've pulled them out so that you're really just looking at sort of the core logic. And if you, for example, look at, let's say, dispatch, you can see that you're able to kind of quickly go to the areas of interest without too much confusion, which is typically what you'd see in a large JavaScript application such as MSLS. There is quite a bit more, as you can imagine, to this particular documentation, but I will leave that up for you to go through and discover on your own. The script itself is available for purchase for $9.99. It's available on our website at softlandingcanada.com, and if you just go to the order section, you'll see that there's an option to order this. Also, we have available other third-party frameworks such as AngularJS, Knockout, Ember.js soon to be, Backbone soon to be, Batman, Data.js, and a host of other scripts out there. So if you're serious about developing JavaScript based applications, you will find that these very simple chim files are easy to navigate, highly indexed, highly available, and a great resource for your development purpose. Thank you very much and have a great day.